lion. Perhaps if we told the police, Claire said, perhaps they'd believe us. We've got to make someone believe us before he gets hungry. What do you mean, Tom said. Well, once he gets hungry, and there's no sausages to steal or dustbins to rob, then he'll have to kill. Got to eat, hasn't he? Listen to this. She opened her book again. When it hunts, she reads out, shows a daring skill and cruelty equal to that of a tiger. One is reported to have killed 50 sheep in a single night. Do they kill people as well? Tom said. Claire shook her head. Hardly ever. That's what my book says anyway. Only when they're very, very hungry. The police station was just 5 minutes down the road from the school. They could be back by the end of playtime. They sneaked out of the school gate while Mr. Morgan's back was turned and ran all the way there. The policeman looked at the two breathless children and tapped his pencil on the counter. Lost something, have you? No, said Tom. We've seen something. The policeman sounded bored. Oh yes? And what have you seen then? Flying saucers or a pink elephant? He snorted with laughter. No, said Tom. A lion. I've seen a lion running off with Mrs. London's sausages, and she's seen them too, haven't you, Claire? Claire nodded. Close as I am to you, she said. Ooh, well, I wonder if the policeman's going to believe them. I think you'll have to read and find out.
Hello everybody, Polar Bear here. Now if you think very carefully about polar bears, you might think of a clue as to what my real identity is. Today I'm going to share with you an extract from the story called The Twits by Roald Dahl. Now I chose this because it's a funny book, and because the characters in it get up to all sorts of things that people in real life would never do. Now Mr. Twit was one of these very hairy-faced men. The whole of his face, except for his forehead, his eyes and his nose, was covered with thick hair. The stuff even sprouted in revolting tufts out of his nostrils and ear holes. Mr. Twit felt that this hairiness made him look terrifically wise and grand. But in truth, he was neither of these things. Mr. Twit was a twit. He was born a twit, and now at the age of 60, he was an even bigger twit than ever. The hair on Mr. Twit's face didn't grow smooth and matted, as it does on most hairy-faced men. It grew in spikes that stuck out straight like the bristles of a nail brush. And how often did Mr. Twit wash this bristling nail-brushy face of his? The answer is never. Not even on Sundays. He hadn't washed it for years. Mrs. Twit was no better than her husband. She did not, of course, have a hairy face. It was a pity, because that, at any rate, would have hidden some of her fearful ugliness. Take a look at her. Have you ever seen a woman with an uglier face than that? I doubt it. But the funny thing is that Mrs. Twit wasn't born ugly. She'd had quite a nice face when she was young. The ugliness had grown upon her year by year as she got older. And why would that happen? I'll tell you why. If a person has ugly thoughts, it begins to show on the face. And when that person has ugly thoughts every day, every week, every year, the face gets uglier and uglier until it gets so ugly you can hardly bear to look at it. A person who has good thoughts, though, cannot ever be ugly. You can have a wonky nose, and a crooked mouth, and a double chin, and sticky out teeth, but if you have good thoughts, they will shine out of your face like sunbeams, and you will always look lovely.
Hello, I am Yoda, and today I am going to read you a little bit of the amazing adventures of Chilly Billy. Nobody knows this except you and I. I'm only telling you if you promise to wash behind your ears every night for the next week. You promise? Right, here goes. This is a story about a tiny man who nobody but me has ever seen. His name is Chilly Billy, and he lives inside your fridge. You don't believe me? Well, here's a way you can tell it's true for yourself. Tomorrow night, just before you go to bed, creep into the kitchen very, very quietly. Go up to the fridge and don't make a sound. I usually hold my breath as as I do this, and maybe you should too. Now comes the difficult part. Pretend, as hard as you can, that you're going to walk right past the fridge. Then, just when you think you really are going to walk past, turn around all of a sudden, at the very last second, as quick as you can, and open the fridge door. What do you see? A light. There's a light on inside the fridge. You didn't turn it on because you were pretending to walk past. I didn't turn it on because I wasn't there. Chilly Billy turned it on. He always hears you coming, and he switches the light on just in time. Then when you close the door, he switches it off. But that's not all he does. Chilly Billy is probably the busiest little tiny man in the entire world. But before I tell you about some of his adventures, I think you should say hello to him and see what he looks like. This picture shows him much, much bigger than he really is. And that's because it's only when Billy is magnified several times that you can see what an extraordinary furry he is.